There are many different ways to use the 20 pictures deck within Deckhive. Here are just a few ideas to get you started. So first of all, we have a check-in activity. So it might be that at the start of a session, we ask each person to choose a single card and drag it to the table. And we put them all onto the same table so that we can have a plenary discussion around the cards that were chosen. And we just simply set a question which is topical for the session that we're about to have. So it might be about how people are feeling as they're arriving, where their head's at the moment, or it could be something that's about the session itself and why is it important for you to be here today, and finding a picture that has a visual metaphor that reflects something about their purpose for coming along that day. Again, there could be any number of different questions we might set, but we're simply using that visual metaphor as a way into helping people to connect with the session that they're about to take part in, or indeed to reflect on a session that has just finished and to consider what they're going to be taking away after that session. So that's one idea. Another might be to work with individuals in breakout spaces, so you can have a different table with each individual or with each pair or small group of individuals, so they can have a breakout room in Zoom, for example, or in Teams, and then use the space within Deckhive to have a smaller group discussion. And they can choose a series of cards maybe to consider the different questions that are topical. If you're in a coaching scenario and you're working with an individual, then you might even want them to choose a number of different images and drag them over to the table to reflect something that you're working on. So you might, for example, want them to consider the strengths that person has, or that they're reflecting in somebody else, or noticing in somebody else, or in their team. Or it might be about a challenge that they're facing and which pictures represent something that's important about that challenge that they're having to deal with at the moment, and use that imagery to help explore the issue and work out what it is that they want to do next. In a slightly different context, you might want to use the cards as a way to build up some confidence and narrative and oracy skills, or creativity, in fact. So it might be we'll start with a number of cards on the table and they're all face down, and we're going to ask people to turn the cards over one at a time, and we're going to give them a set amount of time to talk about that card. So it might be we have a conversation starter that gets people talking about what they're seeing and being very descriptive about the visuals that are on that card. And do that for a set amount of time, like 30 seconds or a minute. Or we could use it in a more creative way. We're going to ask people to tell a story based on the image that's there, and maybe in quite an abstract way rather than a literal way about what's on the picture. So that moves from person to person. So each person that has their turn turns over the card, we enlarge the card for emphasis, and they talk for their minute around the concept of what's on that card, to weave that into the story that's being told as a group. So the story builds from person to person as we move through the group. And then we continue to turn over the cards to continue the evolution of that story. So just a few ideas to get you started, but I'm sure you have very many other ideas of how you can use these cards in the things that you do, because it's so versatile, so flexible, given that they're just a set of images that can inspire and take the conversation in many different directions. So we hope you enjoy using them.